if you're an agency owner using Go High Level, stop fucking reviewing client calls. So I'm going to show you what I mean. So let's say you have a client. Let's pretend this is your client and you got them all these leads and you need to figure out, okay, is this actually a good lead? You know, it looks like this one has a phone call. So let's click on them and then let's listen to this phone call and let's see, did this lead end up booking? Are they actually a good lead? You know, what's the deal here? And, well, this phone call expired, but if I was your account manager, I would have to literally listen to every single phone call in order to figure out what's the quality of the lead, did they actually book, and what's going on here. Obviously, this seems insane because AI is a thing. AI can fucking analyze it. So in this video, we'll talk about the 3 levels of analyzing client phone calls and which one you might want to do for your agency. All right, so here we are in Figma, and yeah, we have 3 levels of review that you can do for your agency to review your clients' leads. The first one is, of course, manual, the one that we just talked about. Now, I'm gonna give you some hard truths here. This is a really shitty way to do it. All right, let's go medium. And what are the downsides? Super time consuming. All right, super time consuming. Because if you have to go into each sub-account, each of your client's sub-accounts, and listen to every single phone call or look at the conversation, that's never going to work. Obviously, it's just fucking slow as hell. And so just switching accounts is super slow, and then you can't actually easily look at all the phone calls with context. You have to like go into each contact or go to the phone calls page, and then you have no idea who the contact is that's having that call. So yeah, it's super time consuming just to look at all the phone calls. It's also kind of slow and inaccurate because if you have someone who's doing this, they might get tired or they obviously won't be able to work 24/7. So you're going to have some lag time. The agencies I talk to that do this, they've had lag time of like 7 days, 14 days, up to a month behind on reviewing phone calls because it's all manual and they have someone who's trying to do this. It's also not that consistent because if you have someone who's listening to phone calls and they listen to 5 really shitty ones in a row, they might listen to one that's pretty bad but not the worst, and then they might grade it as like an A or something because it's not the worst one they've heard that day. So it's kind of slow and inaccurate. Now level 2, and I just realized there's actually 4 levels. All right, we might have more levels as we go. Is manual plus sheet. All right. So what this would mean is you use the trigger in HighLevel for call status. Okay, so that would be call status, and that would go to the a Google Sheet. Okay, and so a call status would be fired as complete. You could take the call recording and everything like that and just put it into a Google Sheet, and then you can review the calls faster, kind of one by one, and you can mark them with a grade. But you still have the problem of it being slow and manual, obviously, because you know you still have to go through and look at every single phone call, and then it's also still inaccurate, and you still have the issue of not being able to figure out the additional context around a contact. You might have a phone call, but you won't know, like, okay, is this a brand new contact that just got created when they called the business, or are they like a previous client that we've already talked to? You don't really know. All right, so we'll go super time consuming as well. Now, I don't know why this says 4. This is number 2. All right, now we move up a level and we have level 3. Okay, and this is the only one, this is the first one that I'd actually recommend doing or looking into. So I have an app, and I think there's several other apps on the app marketplace for Go High Level that can transcribe phone calls on the fly. All right, so what this means is that rather than having your CSM or like someone on your team listen to every phone call and manually write down what happened, we have AI transcribe the call. Right, it's amazing. AI is a thing nowadays, and you can just have it do work for you. These companies have invested hundreds of billions of dollars, and now we are able to actually transcribe speech. Anyways, so we transcribe the phone calls on the fly. You can do this in a workflow, or you can send the recording out to Make or N8N or Zapier and have it done there. But either way, you just want to get the call transcribed, because what that allows you to do is run it through an LLM ChatGPT, and LLM, ChatGPT is an LLM. Sorry to beat you over the head with something obvious. But you transcribe the phone call and then you run it through an LLM. And so if you had a workflow like this, you might start it with call status, okay? And then, like I said, there's multiple apps on the App Store that can do this on the marketplace for HighLevel, and they do it in different ways. I actually have 2 apps. They work in kind of different ways. But you might have a call status, and then you might have, by the way, if you ever can't get the call recording URL from a phone call, you just have to add a wait. You could do like a minute, that should be safe. But the call status fires and the recording's not ready until, I don't know, it's usually like 10-ish seconds after, but for longer calls you might do like a minute just to be safe. But yeah, so you have that wait step, and then you could do like a custom webhook and post it over to deepgram.com or something like that. Or you can use like one of the custom apps and basically get your phone call transcribed. So then you would have the text, and then all you have to do is get ChatGPT to output in a result. So what we might say is did this person book? And we might put in the result from our, transcription. So here's the call transcript, did this person book? And then we would do a separate prompt. So we can save that. And let's create another one, because you don't want to do it all in one prompt. It's a really big pain in the ass. But then we might go sales grade. So what was the sales grade of this call? All right, so you might do that. And then you might copy it, and then you might do contact grade, okay? Because another thing you might want to determine is how good is this contact, right? We're generating leads. Are they actually any good? And of course, AI can kind of look at the conversation, and if that person says, yeah, I'm basically just out here kicking tires, window shopping, I have no intention of buying, that's a pretty clear signal that they are a tire kicker, window shopper with no intention of buying, right? So, that's a contrived example, but you get the idea. Of course, it's obvious in many conversations what the quality of the contact is. So we can say, how good is the contact? Use this criteria. And then we would put in like, has a lot of money, is serious, whatever. I don't actually have a prompt written down for this, so you're going to have to bear with me and, use your prompt writing creativity, but I hope you get the idea. You can prompt it, and then once you have these 3 results, then you could just post it over to Google Sheets. So I'm not connected, but you would create a row with, this contact's name. You could just do contact.name because the call status has their contact. And then you could include, the disposition, like did they book, were they spam, whatever, and then the sales grade, and then the contact grade, and you could just include that all in a row, and like maybe the call recording. And then when you go to review phone calls, all of a sudden your CSM doesn't have to listen to any. It basically your CSM just looks at this Google Sheet and they can see, okay, this phone call had this disposition and they had a sales grade of this, and then you can create a chart that just shows like here's your percentage, like most of your calls are really bad sales grade or really good or whatever, right? So that is the second way, and you just send it over to Google Sheets and you're basically good. This is a really good workflow. The only problem that I see with this is that now, actually this is step number 3. Then the issue is duplicating workflows, okay? Because what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to have this workflow. Well, I'm recording Figma right now, but you're going to want to have that workflow on all of your client sub accounts, right? The issue with that is, do you have the same snapshot for all of your clients? That's a serious question, because if you have the same snapshot for all of your clients, you add this workflow to this snapshot, then you go to the settings and you go push update to all sub accounts, and hopefully nothing breaks. Maybe you can just select this one workflow and have it be duplicated to all of those sub accounts, and then you just get that one workflow. Then the issue though becomes, okay, do you want to change the prompting, right? Because for one of these prompts, okay, let's say for this prompt, we go contact grade. Well, for this type of client, they must be looking for hairline correction or something. They've got a receding hairline, so they must be looking for that service. However, you might have another client where they must be looking for a premium dildo, something like that. I don't know. But basically, you might have two separate services that your clients are looking for. And so now, if you ever want to change this, you have to manage the version. You have to say, okay, so this is this version. And then if you update this workflow and try to push it to all of your sub accounts, it's going to overwrite this prompt that you customize. And you're going to have to come back and customize this prompt again. And so with this, maintenance becomes a really big pain in the ass. That's one of my biggest problems with HighLevel workflows, is that the version control and maintenance is really fucking hard to do. It's really hard to have kind of a coherent and consistent workflow, snapshot that you share across all of your sub accounts. Because any change means that when you update it, it's going to break. And so you either have to update it manually, or you have to remember that change and then remake that change once you update. So when you have a shit ton of clients, it becomes a fucking nightmare. Now, I'm going to show you the last version of what we can do. So for the last version, we're going to say fourth full AI system. All right, that's what we'll call this. So we have these problems of duplicating workflows. We also have the problem of like actually pulling out the data, because you might want more data than we talked about in that workflow, and you might want to know, you might want to have more information rather than just one phone call. So when you go to grade the contact, you might be wondering, okay, what kind of form did they submit? What's the other information about them? What are their previous phone calls or messages? And so you kind of end up with a lot of problems in terms of like reliability and kind of that word, basically thoroughness. Okay, that's my synonym. So let's look at the final solution. Okay, and this is the final solution. Surprise, surprise, it's something I've built. All right, you got to give me money if you want to use it. Yeah, shocker, I know. But hopefully I can just show you kind of what's possible. And even if right now you're going, fuck this guy, dude. He deceived me. Now he's trying to sell me something. Maybe you can just take some ideas from this and then go do your own thing, right? But I just want to show you what this kind of looks like. So at the high level, we have for each sub account, you could technically do something like this in Google Sheets. If you had one table for all of the phone calls and contacts and then another table for every sub account, then you could find things like the median quality grade. Oh, let me zoom in for you a little bit. Then you could find things like the median quality grade of the contacts and the median sales grade of all of the conversations. And then that way you could have the same kind of overview. Of course, you might also want things like speed to lead, touch rate, engagement rate of those leads, and then total percent that are valid, and maybe some ad spend data would be nice to have on this view as well. Maybe. I don't know. What I do know. I'm just trying to entice you. So anyways, once we click on one of these sub accounts, then we'll actually be able to see all of our contacts that have come in through this through HighLevel. Okay, and so what we can see is for every contact we have a summary, and this summary isn't just like the most recent phone call or whatever. This actually takes every single phone call, every single message, everything in the notes for the contact. So if you have like, if you put form fills in the notes, like someone submits a lead form, you put that information in the notes, then this can read that. So we have the AI summary of the entire contact. We have a quality grade of this contact overall. And so we can see in this case, they got a B. It's a 2019 Soul. And then we have a sales grade and a CRM task, which is an AI task that's actually generated for this contact. Okay. And so we also have an AI status. So if you want to have it automatically update the pipeline status of a contact, you might want to have an AI review that, because as we know, clients never update the pipeline, no matter how many times you explain the importance to them. And so we can just have an AI look at the phone calls, look at the contact, and figure out, okay, here's where they should be in your pipeline, right? So that gives us the AI status. And we can also go over here and view every single phone call to actually kind of be able to review phone calls individually, right? And so on this page, we have basically the same thing as you would have in Google Sheets, but it's much easier to filter and view. And then we also have, so we have call direction, call status, call duration, call grade. So this means each individual phone call is also given its own score, and then a summary, and we have a transcript page. So we can actually see exactly what happened on that phone call, and we can save a link to that and maybe share with the client or whatever. And so, yeah. And then the last thing is you want some way to control, obviously, the prompting here. So we have an automations tab. And what this does is it allows us to bundle our sub accounts together. So rather than having one workflow that we have to duplicate to every single sub account and keep in sync and do all that shit that I was complaining about, we can basically select whichever locations are the same configuration. So in this case, I have 2 clients that I want to have these automations running for, and they're the same type of business. So that means my prompting is going to be the exact same. So if we go to sales scoring, sales scoring isn't too niche dependent, but we have some pointers there for the sales scoring. And then for the contact scoring, we have our specific rules based on this industry. And so if we ever want to make a change, we just make a change and it saves for all of these locations. No need to like update the snapshot, then push the snapshot, then check if anything broke, and then fix it. It just works. All right, Apple, just do it. So yeah, that's really all there is to it. This, I think, I know I've had a lot of agencies come to me with the same kind of problem, and it's made sense for them to sign up. So you can decide if that makes sense for you, or I was sick recently. That's my excuse for my voice just cracked. Or you can do the solution that we talked about earlier, where you have AI run those evaluations in a workflow. The only issue that I see with that is each of these requests. I don't know if that actually says the pricing on this page, but it's a premium action, which normally means 1 cent, but I believe for 4.0 it's 3 cents, and for 4.0 mini it's 1.5 cents. So it's gonna get pretty expensive, plus a custom webhook. It's gonna get pretty expensive, and obviously you have that versioning issue and just keeping it in sync. But I respect your decision to say fuck me, fuck me, fuck you, as in fuck me. So anyways, that is the video. Click the link below. If you click the link below, you'll be taken to this website where you can see the headline here, and you can see a little overview video, and you can see some of these features. So we have basically looking into which leads actually convert, being able to track like touch rate and stuff like that, and then being able to review kind of sales conversations. And of course, you just hit book a call, and then you'll be taken to book a phone call, actually a Zoom call with me, and I can show you more and talk about your specific problems that you're dealing with. So yeah, that's the pitch. Hopefully you found this video useful, and yeah, click the link below if you're interested.